Our top story this morning, Cabinet sources have accused Tory rebels of jeopardising the party's chances at the next general election.
Comes amid reports that the Prime Minister has been calling Conservative MPs to shore up support in the event of a vote of no confidence.
Well, the former Attorney General, Jeremy Wright, and the former Leader of the House, Andrea Leadsom, are the most recent senior Conservatives to question the Prime Minister's future.
And yesterday, Boris Johnson's ethics advisor, this is Lord Gage, reportedly threatened to quit over Partygate, saying there were legitimate questions about whether the PM breached the ministerial code.
So in an attempt to restore confidence, the Prime Minister is reportedly planning to hold monthly pandemic-style press conferences on the economy and the cost of living crisis.
Joining us now is the Chief Economic Advisor to the Centre for Economic and Business Research, Vicky Pryce. Very good morning to you. Vicky, just first of all, what do you make about the Prime Minister holding these pandemic-style press conferences to address the cost of living? Do you think that'll make people feel better?
Well, it might do. I mean, after all, they felt that they had to intervene to do something about the cost of living crisis, and perhaps this show of really caring for the economy would suggest to people that maybe there is more to come, because obviously if things deteriorate, we would expect Rishi Sunak to think of some other way in which he can support businesses. And we've been hearing, of course, loads and loads of concerns in so many sectors of the economy. So I'm suspecting that if there is indeed going to be this monthly meeting, it will be based on maybe some announcement of what is going to come next, or some soothing words. And what you do need in the UK right now is consumer confidence to improve and business confidence to improve. For the moment, they've been falling very dramatically.
Well, is it to hear updates regularly from the government? I mean, businesses like certainty, don't they? They like to know exactly what's going on when it comes to taxation. Of course, we had that big announcement from Rishi Sunak last week, which perhaps might have been a shock to some businesses. But could arguably these regular press conferences reassure business and help individuals as well?
Well, the truth is that businesses have been complaining for quite some time that they haven't been listened to properly. They've been putting all sorts of suggestions to the government, and they were particularly upset, I think, if I could use that word, about the national insurance increase that took place. That they were lobbying to have that removed. They were lobbying earlier not to have that imposed because, of course, it hurts them in terms of the cost of hiring people, because basically it makes business a lot more expensive to run. And we've seen what's been going on in terms of their input costs more generally. So, the interesting thing would be about those press briefings, if that indeed is what happens, whether they can reflect at all what they've been hearing from business. And there are so many bodies that can inform the government of what's going on and the pressures that are out there. And I think the feeling has generally been that they haven't been listened to. And I think, hopefully, some of those meetings will reassure businesses that at least some of the messages are going through, but it remains to be seen how they're actually run and what the content is. For the moment, we don't know very much about it.
That huge package of support from Rishi Sunak last week, is the government doing everything it can, in your opinion, to help with the cost of living crisis?
I think it's beginning to realise that the crisis is a bit bigger than perhaps they had anticipated. What we've seen in lots of other countries is that there had been measures to assist people a lot earlier, a lot of subsidies for fuel bills, and quite a lot of countries also having similar tax increases on companies such as windfall taxes, which they redistribute. Again, the interesting thing is that they've been redistributing them to businesses as well as households. But I think we've been coming at it a bit late in the day. And you've already seen, of course, people beginning to retrench. We saw that in the retail sales figures. We saw that in what consumers intend to do in the future. And the increases that we have seen here have hit people hard. But yes, I think the response has been good in the sense of, people in general. I think a poll suggested that, slightly more than half of the population, or the people who responded anyway to the survey, thought it was a good package, the latest one. Just under 50% thought perhaps it wasn't such a good package. I think the general expectation is that there may need to be more, but I think at least we have seen a redistribution to those people who are going to be hurt most. And I think that's a realization that those have been ignored, those pleas, if you like, for help have been ignored for too long. And the package, I think, is very welcome from that point of view. Now, the question is how it gets implemented. Will it get to people's pockets quickly enough to make a difference?
A bit of a political question, and obviously I know you're talking to us with the sort of economics hat on, but in terms of the Prime Minister's current conundrum, and you'll be aware all of the papers pretty much talking about Boris Johnson a week on from the Sue Gray report, pressure mounting on him from within his own party. Lots of questions about whether or not this sort of electoral winner will be able to win at another election. And I wonder how much you think the economy will play into that. I mean, if people are being given money in the way that Rishi Sunak was handing it out last week, could that be enough to keep people loyal to him at the ballot box, do you think?
I think so far the indications are that it isn't going to be enough, that there may well need to be something more. And I think one of the reasons why those press conferences may happen is precisely for that, to sort of gauge how the mood is going and what more perhaps needs to be done. And I think in the end, they're going to have to intervene a lot more, and both for political reasons, but also for economic reasons, because we're likely to see quite a slowdown in the economy. We may indeed see a recession. In that environment, support for government anyway doesn't stay high. So they're going to need to be doing something. And given all the problems, the extra problems that the Prime Minister has right now, then he would be certainly talking to Rishi Sunak a lot more in terms of what can be done. And frankly, one can borrow more in this country as a government. We're not like other countries that are suffering right now with huge sort of debt default issues. We are in a completely different situation. We've been borrowing a lot less than we anticipated originally. There's plenty of room there. So I think the politics and the economics are going to be very, very closely intertwined in the months ahead.
What you say, Vicky, that we can afford to borrow more, because a lot of Conservative MPs think that's the last thing we should be doing.
Well, absolutely. I think there is a bit of a schizophrenic existence for a Conservative government, which, of course, is taxing a lot more and is borrowing a lot more than you would have expected it to be doing. And that's why it's been accused of having more sort of Labour-type policies than Conservative-type policies. But I'm afraid we are in a crisis situation. We have a war practically, in Europe, not just at our doorstep. In Europe's doorstep, in other words. So there is a serious issue right now with all those pressures on oil prices, which we've seen, of course, have been rising, although just today they've been coming down a little bit again. But overall, very high energy costs, high food costs, all those areas which the government is going to have to deal with. And we're already seeing what it means for Europe overall, and with whatever's happened yesterday, which, as you know, is the sort of extra banning of Russian oil coming in over the next few months. That's going to put extra pressure on. So businesses will be suffering, and individuals as well. So I think we are in a crisis situation. And yes, I think the government is going to have to do more and possibly borrow more, particularly if we do enter this sort of serious slowdown that some people are forecasting.
OK, we really appreciate your thoughts this morning. Vicky Pryce is the Chief Economic Advisor from the Centre for Economic and Business Research. Always good to know what you're thinking. Thanks very much indeed.
Yeah, definitely.